A mysterious man tries to warn Mulder about his case. The agents fly to Ellen's air base to investigate a missing pilot, only to stumble upon something very sinister. Who is the man who tried to warn Mulder, and how did he know about the danger of this case?
This is not happening.
Hello and welcome to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast.
Who are you?
I can be of help to you. I've had a certain interest in your work.
How do you know about my work?
Let's just say that I'm in a position to know quite a lot of things. Things about our government.
Who are you? Who do you work for?
It's unimportant. I came here to give you some valuable advice. You are exposing yourself and Agent Scully to unnecessary risk. I advise you to drop the case.
I can't do that.
You have much work to do, Agent Mulder. Don't jeopardize the future of your own efforts.
All right, so today we're covering Deep Throat.
I really liked it. It was pretty action-packed, and I liked what they did with it, especially given that it was apparently the cheapest budget for any X-Files episode made. Yep, just over $1 million, and that's of all of the episodes, the least expensive.
We all know it was supposed to be space. That did not go well at all. The introduction of a major player is so mysterious, but also very, very intriguing. And we'll get there, but I think he's just such a great character. So to open the episode, we are treated to our very first extreme X-Files tactical situation.
You know, I look at it fondly. I think for 1993, it was probably the coolest thing ever. It's not perfect, obviously. They were launching into this, and I think you could see that they had a lot of gusto, they had a lot of energy, they wanted to be big. But there's a lot of sweeping camera movements, there's a lot of, macho man jumping at doors and kicking things in. But
yeah, that guy gives it his all with his arm, man. Go.
But it's good, it's solid. It makes you feel like you're a part of it because the camera is right up in their grill. You're invading the house with them.
Absolutely. I think the tension is upped almost immediately. And even though there's these guys in tack gear moving forward and executing this plan, Mrs. Budahas is there, and she is putting on quite the performance in this episode. She's very good.
Well, the pretext is pretty flimsy when you look at it. Like, he's stolen a vehicle, he's AWOL without permission, or I forget exactly what the pretext was for their intervention. But I think that just goes to show that, he is being put on a pedestal as a very dangerous person. So when we see him shivering and naked and sunburned, basically in the room, we get to this instant bait and switch of, well, wait a second, maybe he's not dangerous whatsoever. He's harmless as a kitten. So what's all the fuss all about?
It's a very what the hell's going on moment. And of course that leads straight into the intro to the episode. But
the first use of the credits,
Mark Snow bringing it home. Creating one of the most parodied and I would say ripped off songs of all time.
Absolutely.
For anything paranormal.
So we start off in Washington with Mulder and Scully at a bar.
Scully's waiting for Mulder, and he shows up to buy her a drink at 2 p.m. on a workday, and she's like, I don't know. That doesn't seem appropriate.
But no more than anybody else in that episode, apparently. So.
Must be right across from the FBI.
Yeah, definitely.
They have a quick exchange, and then, the camera pans over to a mysterious older man, couple stools down, who apparently has been listening to their conversation. This guy will become very important real quick. He also looks like he just drank some bad milk.
But he looks like that through the entire series, though.
I don't know. It just struck me, this scene. He gives that classic, I'm eavesdropping, Hollywood listen. I like it. So after Mulder begins showing Scully a file, Colonel Budahas has been experiencing psychotic episodes, as seen in the intro, of course. And was forcefully removed from his house. His wife has been trying to get a hold of him, but the military has been giving her the cold shoulder. It's a case he's pretty interested in, and Scully, being Scully, always has her questions. Why the military would kidnap their own.
I got to say, I really like that Mrs. Budahas treats it as a kidnap. She's not getting the answers that she wants, so she takes it to the FBI. Which says a lot about her.
That's extremely long to go without seeing your significant other, and the military is not telling you a thing. So yeah, something's got to be up.
Yep. So Scully's like, what reason would the military have to kidnap one of their own pilots? Which is a very nice overview of the entire episode, isn't it?
Yeah, she's very intelligent.
Which means she knows everything about airplanes.
Well, apparently she does. She's identified planes on the bottom of the ocean.
It's true.
But yeah, Mulder just lays it out. Since 1963, there have been 6 pilots missing or who have gone missing from the same base, and he's got major questions about the kind of material they're rolling out.
Yep. It's a very soft little open to what's going to happen in this episode. It's subtle. He doesn't immediately jump to telling us what the plot is going to be. That's going to happen later.
And then we go straight into the bathroom with Mulder, and that's pretty awesome. I love it.
You like going to the bathroom with Mulder?
I love going to the bathroom.
Good pastime to have. Yeah.
He actually has a close encounter in the bathroom. The older man is now spying on him in the bathroom, and it's quite enjoyable. It's a wonderful time. Look, dude, I got stage fright.
Apparently, Jerry Hardin got this role solely because of his performance in The Firm, the first Grisham novel turned movie.
Yeah, Chris Carter liked that.
Didn't even have to really audition. That was his audition.
Yeah, he just plays that dark, mysterious guy very well. Upon watching this the first time, I didn't find him as menacing as Cigarette Smoking Man. There was something about him that was much more approachable, and I really think that speaks a lot to Jerry Hardin and the way he kind of portrayed this. I'm going to give you information. I'm a bad guy, but I'm not really a bad guy.
He's got a bit more of a folksy feel to him, the way he's playing it. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he is offering aid to Mulder, of course, that makes him the ally that he's going to get. He's not coming to him with threats. He's warning him away because it might be dangerous, but he's not threatening him, at least not yet.
Yeah.
They do this classic camera trick of Mulder's looking in the mirror. It's empty. We pan away. And then when we come back, the mirror has Deep Throat in it. Like he has just appeared like a ghost. Didn't make any noise. Just suddenly is there.
First one of many.
Yeah. And
mirror
of
surprises,
course,
I call them.
He's there as an ally, apparently. But, I like that it's nicely ambiguous. They don't set it up that, he's going to be the new patron. I'm going to give you everything you need, kiddo. You can tell he's got his own agenda right from the get-go. And then, of course, he disappears just as quickly as he was arriving, like he was never there.
Even before that, I like that he's ambiguous, like you said, but it's more of dismissive of Mulder. Is like, who do you work for? That's not important. What's important is you're gonna jeopardize your work if you keep pursuing this case.
Yeah.
So he's giving him advice not only to be that man who's going to become an informant, but also like, hey, you need to know when to pull back. And that's something we all know Mulder just doesn't have a very good grasp of when it comes to this stuff.
Which begs the question, is he doing this because he knows that by trying to wave him off, it'll just make Mulder go even more whole hog into it?
He kind of does his little vanishing act. The big guy gets in the way of Mulder, chasing him out, and in half a second, he is gone, which is virtually impossible, but I like to just imagine he just kind of he ducks into the women's room.
I like to imagine he's back at the bar nursing his drink. He's wearing a different jacket so Mulder doesn't see him.
So then we go straight into FBI HQ. Opening scene with Scully at the FBI, and Mark Snow is on fire.
Yeah. It's very classic early 90s music, but it is good for the time. And we have some classic Sculler microfiche. Sculler. We have some classic Scully microfiche action, reading through the reports on the Ellis Air Force Base and its association with UFOs. And of course, this is what's going to bind them together, Scully and Mulder. This pursuit of Mulder's for UFOs and extraterrestrial life, and she's going to call him on it, literally. So we get some nice little cutaways. The idea that Mulder's being bugged, the spooky van outside of his apartment. Very ominous. So yeah, those little notes tell us that something is up with this case. It is more than just your average military pilot kidnapping. There's definitely something going on, and of course, that is only going to spur him on even harder to find out what's behind.
Yeah,
this.
and it really gives credence to the man in the bathroom. Is okay. My career might be in jeopardy, and now he senses bugs in his apartment and outside of his apartment. I think it's just makes it a little bit more real because we as the viewer don't even know who that guy is. So I think it was cool.
Background notes tell me that is the sound recording engineer's own personal van that they used for the shot.
So they're on the case. They are now in Southwest Idaho, and they go to the Buddha House residence.
And they start for the first time this whole notion of these low-flying, super fast aircraft flybys. I don't. Do you imagine this happens that at an Air Force base, the residents are constantly having to deal with low-flying supersonic aircraft? I'd imagine there'd be some
I
complaints.
would imagine. I don't think they'd be. Oh, that's just them being them.
I mean,
just learn to deal with shockwaves.
It definitely sets the stage, but I feel like they're taking some liberties.
It's definitely world building, at least in this episode, just kind of selling that theme of these pilots are always doing something, and it just gives even more validity to the story that's being told here.
But then we get to meet Anita Budahas, Mrs.
Gabrielle
Budahas.
Rose, and we will see her again in a later episode.
What episode is that? Because I thought I recognized
We see
her.
her in Host, I believe. She is the doctor looking after the guy who gets bitten.
Well, there are only so many actors in BC, so of course they're going to go.
Oh, this is my favorite game. I told you before. I'm gonna do my best job without just Googling everything. But yeah, she is very emotional in this scene. She, like we said earlier, she does such a great job playing.
Yeah, she's solid.
She's such a distraught wife. She's visibly shaken. She's not seen her husband in 4 months. And yeah, she just gives Mulder and Scully the lowdown. And
some nice exposition, which sets the stage for what they've got to deal with. Something is happening to Bob. He's a normal patriotic guy, and then he's sprinkling fish food on his side dish.
I don't know what's so weird about that.
No.
Apparently, it's not acceptable.
In 1993, it was a bit taboo, but now it's acceptable.
Yeah, there's really something going on here. And Mulder asks the ever-important question, has this ever happened to anyone else that she knows of? And then we get the introduction to Verla McLennan, and her husband has been acting weird as well.
Oh, and he's a weirdo.
He is a weirdo. Hard cut to him creating fishing lures out of his own hair.
I think any true fisherman would tell you that the best fishing lures, have that real personal touch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But Verla McLennan, she is definitely preaching with the choir. She is selling the story that has been sold to her and is a little ticked off that Anita Budahas has brought the FBI to her doorstep.
She is the polar opposite of Mrs. Budahas. And she's not only bought into the story, she's pretending like she doesn't care. She's just so happy to have her husband alive and at home that she can live with whatever they did to him. And it's a little disturbing. She's like you said, a little upset that the FBI was brought to her house by her friend. How dare you?
They're going to talk about me now.
She's worried about the threats that they've obviously made to her and Mrs. Budahas. They're going to ruin them financially if they say anything. So it is a very natural fear for sure, but I don't know. I mean, she's just kind of turning her nose up at the idea that someone would be investigating this horrible thing, which no one can talk about. And she's living herself.
Yeah, I like that we have a bit of back and forth between Mulder and Scully about the nature of what could be happening here. And Scully's saying, well, he's just been exposed to too much extreme stress, and these guys broke down. But Mulder's counter that these guys are supposed to thrive on stress. This doesn't happen. I find it interesting that Scully is the one that brings up the Aurora Project. Normally, it would be Mulder's role to bring up the things that people don't really hear about. But in this case, and maybe it's they're laying the groundwork for showing that Scully knows a lot about aircraft and air programs, that she is the one that's going to bring this up.
I think that's a great point. It does two things. One, it could do that where it lays the groundwork for her military background and her family, but it's also just a reminder that she's an intelligent person and knows her stuff and probably studied up on her way to this case right now.
I like that they're not making her just the yes man in this, oh, tell me more about this crazy secret project that you think is happening.
Yeah, and I think the show would be a lot different if she was always the one who just didn't have any information on her own. She was always asking Mulder, what's happening, or give me all this stuff because I have no background on this at all. It would just not be a pretty good show. And I think Scully in general had that effect on people, especially girls, women. She was one of those people who could just stand toe to toe with a man, and I think it did a lot. It's really cool.
So we get to go do a porch ambush of Colonel Kissel.
And he gives them the kiss off.
Yeah.
Bad joke. He is doing it in a little bit of a paparazzi kind of way. Is there anything you can tell us? He gets a little louder there, but after he closes the door, we get that line that you'd think would come from Mulder, but actually Scully's like, it's a good thing we still have that appointment.
Yeah.
Like it's ever going to happen.
Yeah. Well, but clearly they've been getting the runaround, and that's the point they want to nail home here, is just that they are not going to get the official story from the official they're not going to get the story from the official sources. This is the lesson that they're learning. And
then as they're leaving, they get dual ambush. We got Mulder ambushing Kissel, and then Paul Mosinger, the reporter, he's heard the FBI's in town and wants to ask them a few questions, which Mulder, of course, dodges.
Which I find really interesting because, it's an interesting reversal of the roles. He's the one that ambushes Kissel, and then when he's ambushed, he's now saying, oh, no comment. No
he's
comment,
the same way.
Yeah. But you would think that he would recognize immediately that this is a source he can tap for more information. He does go there, but that initial brush off, I don't know. It seems to me later Mulder, season 5 Mulder wouldn't react quite like that.
Exactly, yeah. And then we're taken to the diner. Quick short scene with Mulder, Scully, and the waitress. She's got a lot of pictures of UFOs that she and other patrons have taken, hung up. And Mulder, of course, Mulder takes interest in those. What else would he take interest in?
I just have to point out the opening line from the diner host, Zoe, when the plane goes past and she says, oh, it's an F-15 Eagle pulling about 4 Gs.
Yep.
I mean, I'm no pilot. I'm not a Air Force person myself, but my understanding is that a G is a rating of how fast an aircraft turns. So the fact that she can hear it and go, that plane is turning about 4 Gs.
I wish I knew, but
she is very good. That's true.
You turn left there, you hear it?
When it turns right, it makes a different noise. Yeah. Okay, I'm done. I got that off my chest.
No, you're good. Yeah. I did not know that, and you're probably correct. This is Mulder's bread and butter. This is actually somewhere on a case where he can actually be himself, and no one's going to look weird at him.
Yeah.
Scully's very much just not impressed. She's like, oh my God, what's going on here? And then when he actually buys a picture, she goes, you're a sucker. See ya. And that face Mulder gives the waitress is pretty awesome.
Yeah. But of course, when Scully can't find the Air Force base on a map, that's the ultimate callback, right? When he's like, oh, we got our own map, sucker.
Scribbled on a napkin, sucker.
Moving on to Ellen's Air Force Base, where we get the nice ominous sign saying this area is restricted military installation to the west.
It's our first of a couple of visits to the air base as well.
Yep. So I find that, I mean, I get that Mulder is hot on the lead for a UFO. He's been given a clue, and he's going to go with his binoculars, his camera, whatever, and check out UFOs. But I feel like it's a bit hard at this point for him to say, Scully, I'm going to go look at UFOs, because that's essentially what he's doing with his actions, right? And she has to be the one to say, is this why you came out here, to look for UFOs? It's going to look real good on my report. You know, that callback to the fact that she's there to spy on him. Like it's not official, but that's essentially how the die has been cast. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at it, they didn't go there super late in the day, but there's that fade to nighttime while they're at the airbase, so they must have been there for at least a few hours. And it's like, could you not be spending your time as an FBI agent doing anything more productive, on a case that, your employer's paying for?
Yeah.
This is why I'm here. She gets quite the wake up though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Someone turning left right above her car,
Pulling 4Gs.
breaking that back window.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Wait, does it break the window? I thought that happened later.
Right when she wakes up. It's actually the thing that wakes her up, yeah. He is super psyched. They look up at the sky, 2 orbs of light kind of dancing around, interacting, which is a cool little effect. That lends more credence to the idea of it being a UFO, and it's got Mulder going absolutely nuts. They're kind of dancing with each other up through the clouds.
Well,
Yeah.
and she's the one to call it, right? She's, again, showing her knowledge of aircraft. She's the one to say, they don't move like that.
Yeah, planes don't move like that. That ascent, though, was really cool. They go up past the clouds, and then there's that sonic boom. Mulder and Scully get chased a bit.
Very young Seth Green.
Mark Snow, again, in this scene. I love his music. There's just such an ethereal trait to the music, the synthesizer. It's just very beautiful and almost kind of haunting. I love what he does here. And I choose to believe that Seth Green in this scene is not scripted, and this is actually just Seth Green. He just kind of walked on the set because this is who I view him as.
I could be persuaded by that. I think there may be some lines that he had to work with, but certainly he made them his own. I think we can all agree on that. So yeah, we have the helicopter chase, and instead of they form an unlikely partnership that they're going to get them out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Mulder and Scully, they just take him to a diner and talk to him about some UFO stories. Seth Green leans toward it being top secret government aircraft, and Scully is not impressed with this moment she finds herself in at all.
I like the use of the hamburger as as the
aircraft
UFO prop. Yeah, and I didn't realize that so there's a moment when a car pulls up outside, and we have somebody saying, "I got a 20 over," and walkie-talkie says, "Roger, Redbird, soon fall back position. We're opening the gate." Yep. But I didn't realize that was Paul Mossinger, our newsman.
We finally get confirmation he's a bad guy.
Well, maybe it's the lighting, maybe it's the way he's cast. I didn't see it. I didn't get that was him. I get now that obviously it makes sense, but for me, it was only later on the episode when we had him confronting Scully that you could connect the dots and go, oh wait, this is the bad guy. But at that moment, I thought this was just some sort of one nameless security dude who's following him around.
Yeah.
Looking at the scene, he's you know it now, just to freeze frame it and look back, but he's not lit from the eyes up. You just see his mouth. So I think that the attentive rewatcher, and the scene isn't very long where you see him. They'd figured it was him, but in the moment, I don't think you're intended to get it.
Yeah, that could be.
These two are high, that they're so high, and they are seeing what they want to see. And she's so quick to just walk away from what she has already seen, which is the thing I don't necessarily believe in this. Like, she's the one who called it out, saying, I don't know what that is, but they're not planes because planes don't move like that. But later on, she's quick to say, oh, well, he was high. You could have told him they saw a hamburger in the sky and he'd believe it. So
yeah, and when they kind of drop him off, she just kind of looks at Mulder. She's like, you believe every word of that, don't you? And Mulder, with this kind of childlike enthusiasm, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah, and Scully, she gives him this kind of playful smile, almost like she's going to laugh. Part of her admires his enthusiasm, I think, and part of her is like, you are an FBI agent. You cannot just go around believing everything you hear.
I think this is a nice playback to their relationship that's sort of been forced on them. Like, her role is to document and provide the scientific detachment. And every time Mulder goes off and does something like this, I mean, they've had some experiences already, even though we've just had the pilot, right? But you know, she's I think has sussed him out to some degree. So for him to act like this, she knows there are going to be ramifications in the report that she's going to have to write, and she probably at this point cares about him enough to say, "Would you please play it a bit more straight and narrow, because I'm going to have to write this up, and it's going to make us both look crazy."
Yeah, and he's already really honest. Honestly, he's been warned now twice. once from some guy who appears to have connections, and by her again, your career is on the line, my career is on the line. Can we please play this a little bit smarter?
Yeah. And I don't think that moped would fit in that trunk.
You don't believe that?
I think you're asking me to suspend my disbelief, and I will do so. So they have their big discussion, your typical Mulder and Scully discussion about, it's a UFO, is it not? He brings out his file of all the UFO materials, links it back to Roswell. And there's a really nice scene where it lays it all down in black and white.
You saw exactly what I saw in the sky tonight. What do you think they were?
Just because I can't explain it doesn't mean I'm going to believe they were UFOs.
Unidentified flying objects. I think that fits the description pretty well. Tell me I'm crazy.
Mulder, you're crazy.
She can't bring herself as a person to say the letter is UFO because, one, it'll give Mulder a boner, and two, she just can't bring herself there. She is not that Scully yet, and that's okay, but it's also a taste of Gillian Anderson's character being a little too obtuse. Like, come on, like, what the fuck was that if it was not a UFO? And Mulder's like, literally, we cannot explain it. It's a UFO. It's in the air. It's unidentified.
Fits the definition.
Yep.
But it's time for the plot to move forward. And we're back at the Beech Grove Motel. And Colonel Budahas has come home.
And Mrs. Budahas, once again, even more so, is extremely distraught. That is not my husband. And that is a creepy feeling.
It's such a great little turn. I love it because you get this. It's, again, a bait and switch. Like, they do this all the time in the show, and they do it very well. Mm-hmm. But the idea that we've finally got some good news. He's come back. The work that Scully and Mulder have done in their investigation has rattled enough cages that they've let him go. They've brought him back.
And that's so cool. Like, the military is blatantly thinking, like, all right, we got to just do something to get the FBI out of here.
Yeah.
Release them. Yeah, this whole scene is so well done.
Yeah.
Chris Carter did such a wonderful job.
Well, everything about it, and I like at the beginning how Mulder diffuses it. Like, it's almost uncommon later on that we see him be this good with people, but the minute that Mrs. Budahas is there saying, he's not my husband. And he's like, Anita, what are you talking about? And, you called the FBI. What are you doing? It's about to sort of explode a bit, but Mulder's the first to say, don't worry about it. She brought us in because she was concerned about you. We just want to ask you some questions. Everything is okay. I thought that was a nice touch.
It is. And Mulder, he really softballs him at first, asking him about his kids, asking him about football. And Budahas, cuts him off even with his answers. And it's like, I know the answers to these questions.
I know what you're doing.
And then subtly, kind of Mulder's like, all right, I got to step this up. And he rolls out this question about aircraft.
Yeah.
And being able to pull off a maneuver. And the look on Budahas's face just kind of drops. It's like he cannot find the answer. It's so good. And Mrs. Budahas just starts going nuts. Like she starts crying even harder. It's just a really powerful scene. And I think it sells the idea that something is going on with the military and adjusting brains somehow. I don't know how you want to call it.
I find that it's an interesting turn. Like, we're about halfway through the episode when this plot nugget decides to get unearthed. That the military can erase or alter your memories. Mm-hmm. And there's really been nothing else in the episode which alludes to that. Like, none of the other characters we've met have experienced memory loss. They just decided it's time to take the episode in this direction, and I'm not against that. It's because it's interesting. But I think I would have liked a little something earlier on, something just from Mulder's files. Yeah, just to say that, and all the other pilots that have shown up have had some kind of memory loss. It's very strange. I'd imagine maybe this is an earlier draft of the process, and he got a little bit fly-fished up,
Well, I agree with you, Andrew. I think maybe they could have thrown something in. It does kind of lend itself to the idea that, okay, if they didn't do that, and they just started either kidnapping them for good or killing these pilots that knew too much and became liabilities, they would have to kind of write their way out of that one, because what would be the punishment that's believable, or how would they get rid of these pilots in a believable way?
Feel
To
like a
move
plane
the story
crash would probably
forward.
be the easiest way.
It would be. That's true.
Then they've done that before,
They have
staged a
done
plane
that.
wreck. Well, not before. They'll do it later, I guess is a proper way of putting it. But
Mhm.
I mean, you delicately dance into the next question, which is the whole memory removal technique. It happens in this episode. It happens sort of off stage in other episodes, but it is not something that the writers of the show go back to with great frequency.
No.
Probably because it is a real.
It would definitely be one of those things that could get out of hand real quick.
Yeah.
They're leaving the house, and on the way back to their car, they're pretty much in the middle of an argument about how or what happened to Colonel Budahas. And Mulder just says his knowledge was drained from him. He should have known the answer to these things, and he does not.
Well, but this is classic case of Mulder explaining the plot. He's touched on it, and we're going to see later on that he is exactly explaining how this plot is going to go.
And then they are run off the road by some, I guess you could say, men in black or military agents, all with aviator sunglasses because this is the 90s.
Yep. Cheap suits, aviators.
Yep. And when Mulder has the gall to ask what this is about, he just gets sucker punched in the back by some asshole. It's like,
Yeah.
excuse me for asking a question, sir.
You are going to pee blood tomorrow.
They destroy all their camera equipment, empty out their briefcases.
So Scully tries to run down the license plate, but doesn't get anything. And this is where Mulder pieces together a bit more of the plot. That Budahas was returned as a decoy.
And he comes clean also about the man in the bar.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Scully was a little put off by that too. I think she's like, why wouldn't you tell me that a man actually told you not to do this or pursue this case?
Yep. Classic Mulder.
But they do get into a little bit of a debate here. And Scully, she says, doesn't the government have the right and responsibility to protect their own secrets? Should they have to tell the public everything that they're doing when it comes to machines and weapons? And she makes a good point.
Yeah.
At what point does the cost become too high, Mulder says.
But she's essentially coming back to her role as I am a federal public servant, and it's not my job to ask these questions. She still trusts her government. She hasn't been given cancer, an alien pregnancy, and a couple other personal violations yet. Yeah. So it takes her a while to be convinced.
It does take her a little bit of a lengthy period of time to be convinced of some of these.
So was anybody at the time they watched this convinced at all when Mulder says, all right, I'll go have a shower and then we'll get out of here? I'll go have a shower and then we'll get out of here. And then she's got that look on her face like, oh, finally, we're going to go do something sane. We hear the car drive off in the distance.
3 seconds flat. The car is on and he's speeding away.
Yeah. I didn't notice that window being shattered, but of course it makes it very dramatic at the time. Yeah.
He's apparently contacted the 2 kids again to show him where they oftentimes go to watch the air show. They warn him in a kind of a jokey fashion about landmines.
That's great. Did I tell him about the landmines?
I don't know if Mulder packed his kind of field clothes or if he went out to Kmart and kind of bought something after he sped away from Scully, but he's got boots on now. And
I need a jacket that's 4 sizes too big. Do you have anything not in my size? I think that was the style of the 90s. That was the style. So I have to say, the shot of the UFO holds up so well, even now. Yeah. I think that was one of the best shots of the show.
That's really cool. Mulder, for the moment, he's hit pay dirt here. He's actually found himself at an airbase. He gets a UFO stopover above his head with the flashing lights. I just fucking love it.
Oh, it's everything so cool. UFO is supposed to be.
Yeah, he gets everything he wants. Unfortunately, he's found himself on a runway.
Yeah,
in plain view.
Yeah, didn't think this one out too super well, but
no,
so
he did not.
Gets everything he asked for and more as they bundle him up into a gurney and give him the full spa treatment at a military hangar. So I like that we intercut Scully business with Mulder's impending, well, not surgery, but whatever this memory loss procedure is going to be.
Mm-hmm. He's clearly out of it.
Oh,
at this point.
Yeah, they've drugged him up pretty good. But this is laying the groundwork for a lot of shows that we're going to see coming up in future seasons. The idea that the military has this technology to remove or alter memories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that we get it so early. I'd forgotten that it happened this early. So speaking of Scully's intercut scenes here, this is where we get the interaction between Scully and Mossinger back at the hotel. That she can't use the phone, that the long distance lines are dead. I mean, clearly the military is closing in and they are making sure that nothing gets leaked.
No loose ends.
I like that she, we see in her face the fact she's not trusting this guy. She's hearing the radio in the background. But the scene is so short, but we get from not even her dialogue, just the way she looks. She does not trust him, but she also has that little tiny half reach for the gun that's not there.
Yep.
Yeah.
She is showing just how awesome she is. This is what makes Scully so different. She is just as important as Mulder.
Yeah.
To the story. And she can take care of herself. I know there's a lot of people who say she's the damsel in distress in a lot of episodes, but it's unfair when people say she's always the damsel in distress because she holds her own pretty fucking well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's absolutely true, but this is Chris Carter's superpower in the 90s was he knew that we'd had a couple of iconic female characters in movies, and this was an opportunity for him to really let an actress spread her wings in this kind of powerful role. And so I think it was a right time, right place kind of situation where suddenly Scully is available to be the hero. And very convincingly. She's well written, given pretty reasonable scenarios, and I think that's why it works so well.
She kind of manhandles Mossinger. She's not afraid to take charge. She uses his gun against him.
It's convenient that he's also armed with the Walther PPK.
Oh, of course.
She's very familiar with her service weapon being the Walther, and thank you for having that. It's likely the same prop, but anyway, it's...
But she holds him at gunpoint. She makes him get in the car and drive while she can still keep him at gunpoint. And she does her damnedest to get Mulder back. Yeah.
But it's, again, perfect cues. Already what's happened without Mulder even saying anything, that he's not going to remember anything, what he's seen there.
Yeah, they're doing like a prisoner exchange with government agents. It's really cool kind of twist going on here. That no one can talk about this stuff, actually. Actually, at the end of the day, no one can actually really talk about what's happening here.
Yep. You wonder if this is a case... I mean, later episodes, you would have seen Cigarette Smoking Man or Deep Throat on the phone with base security saying, let him go. Yeah. But they didn't go there with this, and I give them credit for that. They didn't overuse their bit players. So we're going to wrap things up now in the episode. We've got, 2 or 3 epilogues at this point. Mrs. Budahas has been gotten to. She doesn't care anymore about what's happened. She's just happy that she's got her husband back.
She is crossing over, even reluctantly. She's still got that look on her face. And Colonel Budahas is actually showing a little bit more frustration from off camera. Who is it? Things aren't going very well, but she's decided to kind of buy in and just have her life come a little bit more stable again.
It's because somebody showed up and said, if you want his pension, you're going to toe the line.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to, is just the future, not being able to have one if you keep pursuing this. Yeah.
So then we have Mulder at the track, and we have our resolution meeting with Deep Throat. It says their lives could be in danger. Oh, sorry, we forgot to have Scully's voiceover. True.
The first of the show.
Yeah, which is something.
It's something, but it's not a UFO.
Well, it leaves it open, right? Like anybody could go back to Nellis Air Force Base and just show up and see those things, but the plot leaves it that it's never going to happen.
Yeah. And so the scene at the track, I think this is another one of those moments where they didn't quite know who Mulder was. This is one of the few times we see him doing anything outside of investigating paranormal. So he's running track right now. Who shows up but Deep Throat? The old man.
I'll give it credit that they are bringing back something that they used in the pilot, because at some point in the pilot he's going to go out for a job, for a jog. He's wired up. He asks Scully if she wants to go with him. So they're bringing that back. I don't think it's going to last in future episodes. I don't think we're going to see him jogging again.
Yeah, the last time we see him doing anything athletic is I think season 2. But yeah, I mean I'm just having fun, of course, but
Your lives may be in danger.
Why?
You've seen things that weren't to be seen. Care and discretion are now imperative.
I saw something.
As I said, I can provide you with information, but only so long as it's in my best interest to do so.
What is your interest?
The truth.
I did see something. But it's gone. They took it from me. They erased it. You have to tell me what it was.
A military UFO? Mr. Mulder, why are those like yourself who believe in the existence of extraterrestrial life on this Earth not dissuaded by all the evidence to the contrary?
Because all the evidence to the contrary is not entirely dissuasive.
Precisely.
They're here, aren't they?
Mr. Mulder, they've been here for a long, long time.
I like that it's not black and white. Like,
Mhm.
This is a really great example of a scene where it's written very much in shades of gray. Everyone's got an agenda. Mulder's got his agenda. Deep Throat's got his agenda. Scully has got her marching orders, which I suppose gives her an agenda. But it really gives the characters great depth. It's not just... I'd say of all of them, Mulder's probably the one who's got... He's a little bit the most cut out of a character. He's lost his sister. His quest is to find his sister. But, that's made pretty clear for us. But even then, you see that he's got a wider, set of interests at play. Whereas with Deep Throat, it's just like he's got so many fish to fry, different things on his plate. But that his interest in Mulder is going to somehow be to his advantage. I don't know. I just like the way that they use him. He's the one who lies, and he's going to tell Mulder what he wants to hear. So he'll do what Deep Throat wants him to do.
I was just going to say, even with like the tone of Deep Throat's voice, it's got that ominous feature to it, but it's also inviting in like, he's telling Mulder, yes, what he wants to hear, and he's not afraid to do so. It doesn't look like he's shaken up. He's very stoic, but he's also not telling Mulder anything of substance, really, until later on in the show. But we get that wonderful line, they've been here a long, long time. And it's something for the audience to kind of swallow. Okay, there are people, they know something, and this guy's actually talking about it to Mulder. So it's just a little nugget for the fans and for Mulder himself. He can talk to this guy. He can't talk to CSM. He can't hold conversations with certain people. So this guy, while he's got his own agenda and he doesn't give Mulder all the information, he's willing to have conversations with him, and that's important to Mulder.
I still come back to, and again, we don't know this now, but Deep Throat is the one who lies. So even if he says they've been here for a long, long time, any casual viewer could take that with a grain of salt and go, he's just feeding him a line because he needs him for something.
Yep.
And I think that's the beauty of it. You trust him because the show doesn't give you any reason not to trust him yet. But as we go forward and we do get reasons to distrust him, it really lets you put him in a different perspective.
And that's the episode.
I think it does stand up really well, especially the CGI, which I think even at that time, there are some pretty egregious examples of bad CGI. So clearly Fox was willing to shell out for what they needed. And they set up a lot of stuff which tracks throughout a lot of episodes very well. So in terms of asking the question, is it established mythology well? Absolutely. Like, we're going to see a lot of episodes which come back to the well. They don't tell the same story, but they take a lot of these elements and they tease out the threads a bit. So they have established a lot of really interesting plot points in this episode. And they don't. I mean, you can what if any episode, pretty hard to the point where you go, well, that doesn't make sense. If this character knew that at this time, then why doesn't he do this or whatever?
Yeah.
You just have to take it on faith that this is how this story happened, and these are the decision these characters made at the time based with the information that they had. So, I mean, I always look at things like, well, if we've established that the bad guys can do this, they can just memory wipe anybody who gets in their way. The question then becomes, well, why don't they? And I like that they don't, because that gives our bad guys some depth. They don't have infinite resources.
Yeah,
they don't have, the black and white sense that, well, anytime we have a problem, it's just a nail and I'm a hammer. Mm-hmm. So I like that it's an extreme thing that they use in rare circumstances. Even though, like, between Zoe with her pictures of UFOs and Emil and LaDonna allowed to invade the Area 51, whatever, Ellis Air Force Base multiple times.
Right.
They don't track them down and mind wipe them.
Well, that's just it. Is like, what do they actually know? They just see lights in the sky, pretty much.
Yeah.
So there's no need to go after them. But I like what you're saying. They could have overused the mind wipe idea, and I'm so thankful they didn't.
Yeah.
It would just be too easy of a reset. The show would not be interesting at that point. But
well, and maybe there are some consequences that they allude to that it doesn't always work. Our fly fishing guy, maybe he is an example of where it goes wrong and it offers too many questions. So you have to be very selective about when you use it. Absolutely. But generally, I really like it. It does hold up very well, even 30 odd years later, which is hard. There are a lot of shows in the 90s that you just can't go back and watch.
Yeah, I think this episode, for me, a lot of what you said is spot on, Andrew. This episode was setting up not so much aliens as it was just the military's capabilities and their involvement, which obviously becomes so important to the show. That was the biggest positive out of this episode. The whole thing is just so fun to watch, and being able to get a glimpse that the military has this stuff. We don't know what that stuff is, but it sets it up. It sets up the future in a different way, whereas the first episode was definitely very extraterrestrially driven. This one's more like the mechanics.
More down to earth, as it were.
Down to earth. Bad joke number 2. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.